Thanks for coming up to the meetup here. Just to set the context, we have a lot of good material here. Okay, and also we will talk about architecture. We'll talk about some best practices. We'll also at the end we also talk about some roadmap if we have time. And if you have questions, feel free to just ask the question. I think we have enough time to take your questions, and if we run out of time, we'll go back and maybe we'll talk privately. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Okay. Yeah, I also wanted to talk about my association with the Chicago actually. So Chicago, I went to school here. This was like 15 years ago. And I used to come down to Devon Street. I used to eat Indian food over there and all that. I was always a big fan of coming to Chicago, and I really like the vibe of the town, basically because of the whole the Lakeshore Drive and the Michigan Drive and all that. It's a cool town. So when they asked me to come over here, I was so excited. I was like, yeah, I can come down here and actually come and talk to you guys. And there was also there were some couple of guys who actually were registered for the user group. I actually know them, and I haven't met them for like 10 years. And I thought I'll get a chance or opportunity to talk to them, but they didn't show up here. But that's okay. I'll probably ping them later on. But yeah, with that said, so let's kick it off. So we will talk about. So my name is Nitin Kudikala. I've been with Talon in a little more than 2.5 years. Before that, I was PepsiCo. I was there for like about 5 years doing MDM projects over there, and before that I was a consultant with Informatica. Okay. My main concentration has been before joining Talon was around data quality and MDM actually. And past 6 months or so, I've primarily taken up all the requests coming up for Talon Cloud. Okay. And Talon Cloud, just to talk about the history a little bit about Talon Cloud also, Talon Cloud has been out there for about 3 years now. Okay. As a company also, we are calling ourselves a cloud first company. Okay. Cloud first company, which means that really any product which we introduce, any new products which we introduce, okay, that will come in the cloud first. Okay. And after that, it will get implemented in on-prem. This does not mean that on-prem we won't introduce any products. Okay, on-prem is still a big market for us. We have our biggest enterprise customers on-prem. So we are not really losing. We're not saying that cloud will have all the functionality. No, we will bring everything back to on-prem. But any new tools, like we're gonna talk about the roadmap. We'll talk about some data streams and API management, and those kind of tools will be introduced first in the cloud, and then they'll come to on-prem. Okay, so our Talon. So let me also get some understanding on where you guys are. Are you guys using Talon Cloud right now? No. Okay. Are you guys using Talon right now, like on-prem? Okay. Okay. Are you using like AWS or Azure or any other cloud infrastructure platform as infrastructure as services products? Okay, you are. Okay. Okay. Good. Good. That gives me some idea. Okay, so Talon Cloud is so basically kind of new for you guys, right? Okay, so this will be a good presentation. I think it'll be it's a lot of stuff in the deck that you can learn from. But yeah, we are actually there's a lot of customers who are moving to cloud right now. We have reference architecture sessions. We're doing boot camps such as this for our customers, making sure they're aware of Talon Cloud. So if you guys need any help and if you need more understanding of how architecture works, how does it fit into your existing Talon on-prem, and even if you want to talk about migration, okay, let us know. We can have a meeting. We can talk to you guys. Okay, and also feel free to use our community website. Our community site is amazing. So feel free to post questions over there. There's always people looking at the community and actually trying to answer the questions. So feel free to use the website. It's a great website. It has transformed since when I joined the company. The community website did not exist actually. Now it's completely transformed in the past 2 years. Completely transformed. It's a great website. Okay. All right. So yeah, the agenda, we'll talk about use cases at the high level, okay, and then we'll talk about the architecture. We'll talk about SDLC, which is core both for DevOps and development, right, which is really important. We'll talk about security. why? I mean, security is a big deal, right? When you talk about cloud, so how are we answering that question? Concern about security in Talent Cloud. We'll talk about best practices and tips, and at the end, if you have time, we'll talk about roadmap. Okay. All right. The use case, the first one which comes into anyone's mind is basically is cloud analytics, right? This is the I talk to 3 or 4 customers every week, and 80% or 70% of the customers talk to are actually moving to either like Amazon Redshift or using Snowflake. They're trying to move their on-prem data warehouse to the cloud data warehouse, right? That's really what they're trying. They're trying to leverage the spin up and spinning down, pay-as-you-go kind of model in the cloud. They want to leverage that, and they're trying to get out from big systems like Teradata or even Oracle data warehouses, and they're trying to move to cloud data warehouse, right? That's really one of the biggest use cases that we see. The second one is also big, right? So the app-to-app sync. This is asynchronous sync of data across multiple apps. Like if you have your Salesforce.com web, when you make a request in there, that change needs to go in and actually a record needs to get updated in your NetSuite software or other software in the cloud, right? So it's a app-to-app sync. Okay, that's where Talent Cloud really fits very well. Okay, over there too. Okay, data migration. So this is also a typical use case, right? You want to be able to and I see that more when you're using infrastructure as a service, right? If you're using AWS already, I hear a lot about Amazon Aurora a lot, even more than RDS. If you're on AWS, even more than RDS, you hear about Aurora a lot, and a lot of customers are moving data from on-prem to Aurora. So that's a good use case. They're trying to move the data from on-prem, like Excel sheets or regular files. They're making Aurora as a part of their whole transactional, the whole life cycle. Okay, so just like. In Aurora, there's obviously there are other Azure databases that they're trying to use too. So that's one good use case. But yeah, Redshift, Snowflake, Aurora, these are the most common cloud applications that I hear, and Talent Cloud fits very well for those kind of requirements. Okay, is that kind of what you guys are doing too?
If we are not into Redshift yet,
okay.
Maybe S3 part.
Okay.
But what you are telling is correct. I think that is 89% is true, I guess.
Okay, all right, cool. Okay, moving on to architecture itself, okay. Okay, the architecture, so one really good thing is this Talent Studio, the development part, right, does not change, okay. The studio will remain the same, okay. So as you see, let me, okay, that's the Talent. This is firewall, right? And the Talent Studio is beyond the firewall, okay? And that does not change. On-prem, Studio, Talent Cloud does not change, okay? So what is changing is that right now you're probably on-prem. You have TAC, right? Talent Administration Center, right? And that is being replaced by completely a managed cloud service in the cloud, okay? It's basically completely. This is an environment which is managed by Talent, okay? If you want to give more, if I have to give you more information, it's basically sitting on AWS. Our Talent Cloud sits on the top of AWS in the Northeast region. We have 3 different regions all over globally, but that's where whatever you do in the TAC, that's where this replaces that. Okay, so you don't have to really install your TAC. Okay, so all you need is a studio, right? And you'll get a link to log into it's a multi-tenant application. You just have to basically log in, and you try to publish jobs from Talent Studio to the cloud, right there. Actually, you can right click on the job and say publish to cloud. And you have to enter the URL and all that information in there, but that's as simple as that, right? And if you're using Cloud Engines, we'll talk about Cloud Engines separately, but if you're using Cloud Engines, that's really it. Okay, Cloud Engines is again a managed service which is provided by Talent for you in the cloud. Okay, there's no installation. It's in the cloud. You basically have to. It's licensed though. Engines are licensed. Okay, so the more engines you need, the more license you need to get. Okay, so you will need to basically Cloud Engine is managed by Talent, and all you have to do is create one and assign it to a job, right? And then your jobs can run in the cloud using our infrastructure, right? And in the best practice, we'll talk about some of the things that you can do to some notifications and how can you manage logging and things like that in the best practice section. But at the high level, that's it. If you're using Cloud Engines, so Cloud Engines are used. What we say is it's really for a cloud application. The second use case which I talked about, remember the cloud sync, right? The cloud app sync. That's when you use Cloud Engines. Okay. Your sources and the target should be available on the internet. Okay, that's when you use Cloud Engines. Okay, you cannot use Cloud Engines when you have apps in the on-premises. If you need data from on-premises, we have a hybrid cloud for that, but we'll talk next. But yeah, that's really why Cloud Engines will be used, right? Only for applications which are on the cloud. Okay, so. Yeah, I mean, once the design is completed, jobs are published in the cloud, and we'll talk about security, right? So as you can see, the Cloud Engine is the only communication here is Cloud Engine is going and reaching out to the cloud, okay? The same thing with the Remote Engine, which we'll talk about, but it's really all the communication inside Talent Cloud is HTTPS. That's it. Okay, it's all HTTPS. There's no HTTP. It's all secure communication across, okay? So this is the first type of architecture that you think about. The next type of architecture is hybrid architecture. Okay, this is where you have data in on-prem, okay, and you want to leverage Talent Cloud to read data from your on-prem databases, right? Right. That's when you will need what we call as remote engine. Okay, that's when you will need a remote engine for that. Okay, and remote engine can talk to SaaS apps too. Like you see, all the SaaS cloud apps, and remote engine can talk. Remote engine can talk to the on-premise apps and databases. It can talk to your cloud files, and you can and it's only a one-way communication, right? Talent Cloud does not reach out to remote engine. Remote engine goes back, it's the other way around, okay? It's a one-way communication only. It's not a two-way communication, okay? Which makes it it's very secure, really. It's all HTTPS again. The Studio doesn't change, okay? The Studio remains, for all these use cases, all the architecture, Studio is the same, okay? That does not change. All the components will be available for you over there and all that. But we don't, if you're using MDM, if you're using ESB, they're not in cloud yet, okay? They will come to cloud. In the fall or next year, but it's not in the cloud yet. Okay, so this is big data, DI, traditional DI. Yes, they're all there. Okay, you can use Talent Studio for that. Okay, and yeah, the remote engine. This is the core really. Remote engine. What do you need to do is basically you will need to go into your cloud application and then actually download the executable for that and then install it on your on-prem. It could be just like if I have to compare it with the on-prem, it's just like a job server, right? It's actually the same kind of engine. It's actually a Karaf engine, if you guys know Karaf engine. So it's really a Karaf engine. It's basically just like a job server, okay? You can install it wherever you want, however you want. But unlike on-prem, we do license the remote engines. So remote engines are limited. Cloud job servers are not limited, right? You can have as many job servers as possible in your environment, but remote engines are licensed because they are managed by us. Basically, the cloud manages it. Just cloud is sitting on us. It's a bill to us, right? So that's why it's not free, just like the job server is. Okay. So our licensing, I don't want to go in real detail, but our licensing involves number of users and also the number of engines, okay? The combination of these two. The on-prem had only just the users, right? There's no engines. But the cloud is a combination of engines and users, okay? All right, moving on. This is a very interesting, and we see this all the time. So this is a VPC actually. What you see here, VPC. When I talk about VPC, I'm talking about AWS VPC kind of thing, virtual private cloud, or a Azure VNet, right? That's what I'm talking about. So you can have a VPC like that, and then you can a VPC can actually even have on-prem databases too, right? On-prem applications, databases. At that time, Remote Engine is a perfect example to actually, perfect way to actually leverage as an engine driving your talent jobs. Okay, you need to install a Remote Engine on your VM, AWS EC2 machine, or your Azure VM. Try to install a Remote Engine over there, and then run everything from the cloud. So you publish the job, you basically develop the job, right, and you publish it to the cloud, and you install Remote Engine on inside one of your VMs or VPC or multiple. There will be multiple. Again, we'll talk about environments, but you will need engines per environment. It's just not one engine, right? If you, let's say you have QA, prod, and dev, you have to have at least 3 engines. Okay, so and these can be your dev VPC, QA VPC, and production VPC. Okay, and the good thing is, the Remote Engine can be, you can install it on any server, right? It doesn't really matter. You can install it on an M4, AWS M4 type kind of machine. You can install it in a really small machine, and then maybe change the type later on. You can do that too. So you get a lot of flexibility that way by using Remote Engines. Cloud engines, by the way, which we talked in the other use case before, cloud engines are smaller. Okay, they are fixed. Okay, they have fixed resources. Okay, it's around 6 gig memory and a dual core, 2 cores. That's it. That's all you'll get with one cloud engine. Okay, but Remote Engines, it's really running on your server, so we're not limiting that. You can do whatever you want with it. Okay. So this is very similar, except that you can actually move your some of your logs. You can actually move to your, let's say, your Flow logs in AWS or Azure logs. You can actually try to move the logs to your existing VPC logs. You can kind of integrate them so that you will have one place where you're getting all the logs. Okay, it's almost the same application. It's the same use case, but it's just that you can actually send the logs directly. There's a setting where you can say, okay, send these logs to this S3 bucket. You can actually send them. And on the S3 on the top, you can actually have, you can probably have like a ELK kind of logging mechanism sitting on the top of it. Okay, you can set it up. But that's one of the things which right now in Talent Cloud, there is monitoring, but it's no really log server in the Talent Cloud. Okay. So you would have to there is basic logging, but you would have to if you really need like a proper, like a enterprise level logging, you would have to probably do it yourself, right? Yeah, it's the same. Okay, moving on. So physical architecture. Any questions so far?
Yeah, actually, except case 1, what is the exact benefit of the remaining cases? Because it's almost like you have a job server on your own devices. I mean, the case what I understand that is basically your SaaS-based implementation.
Yep.
But if you move your engine to the remote, right? So what's the difference between having a job server and having that remote engine?
Oh, so one thing is you will need remote engines. You will need remote engines if you're getting, like I said, data from your on-prem systems. Cloud engines can only talk to your cloud apps. It cannot talk to your remote on-prem databases or applications. Okay.
Okay, then what's the benefit of a cloud over the on-prem?
So you're not managing TAC, right? You're not installing TAC. That's really at the high level. That's it. Yeah. I mean, and also you're getting all the upgrades. You don't need to upgrade your Talent software. Talent Studio will be you can automatically upgrade it whenever you need it. But yeah, so automatic upgrades really, and yeah, I mean, so remote engine. If you're in a VPC, you will get obviously a lot of advantages that way. If you're installing a remote engine on your inside your AWS VPC, but
if we say cloud, that will be right. Definitely a cloud engine.
Sure.
And AWS, Azure, anything we can select as a cloud platform, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Cloud platform, as in like for the managed. Okay, let me go back. Like you're talking about this cloud?
Yeah.
No, that's set. That is ours, right? I mean, yeah, that's ours. It's a managed service by Talon. That cannot be changed. You know, you won't have any access to underlying resources or anything like that. No, you will not.
Only a link.
Yes, yes, that's it.
Yeah. And we mostly have the EC2 installation of a database or something like that's an AWS based.
Mhm.
So that you consider as a part of a cloud, right? Not the on-premises. Suppose you would like to access the data from the EC2 machines, right? So that will be a part of a cloud, right?
Right. Yeah. So you would the cloud itself. The cloud itself is you won't really see the EC2 machines in there or anything like that, right? So the EC2 machines which you're talking about, if you are already in AWS, right? Those machines will act as a engine for us, okay, to move your data from one place to another. That's it, okay. But you're not. You won't have, even for the cloud engines, you won't even have access to like what bigger machine is that, how, you cannot change the resources on it. You don't have that flexibility yet, okay. And even the changing the resources on it, you cannot change them.
But if suppose you would like to access the data on the EC2 machine on a separate VPC, right? Our own company's VPC or something
Mhm.
like that, right? Is that possible, or like do you consider that as a cloud-to-cloud access or something?
Yeah, so that should all that should work for just fine. I mean, if you can do VPC peering if there is no VPC to VPC connectivity and things like that. But from our end, this is where you would this is all for operations. This is you can create environments. You can schedule your jobs. Right, there's user management and monitoring. That's it. It's an app, just like TAC, right?
Yeah,
TAC, there's you do everything on the TAC, but it's sitting on the cloud, really. Okay. Go ahead.
Real quick, I think we call that the Talent Management Console.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. TMC, yeah, Talent Management Console.
Yeah.
Yeah. At some point, just to add to what Dale said, TAC will probably be replaced by TMC. Like I said, we are going towards a Talon One architecture, which means that we want to have one architecture for on-prem and cloud. That's where the whole company is going towards. R&D and product management is working towards, and eventually we'll have just one architecture where you can have the same kind of software on-prem and also cloud. Okay, so TAC will probably not anytime soon, but maybe 2 or 3 years or so. I don't know the timelines exactly, but yeah, it will be replaced by TMC. So the artifact repository there is an artifact repository sitting on the cloud, okay, but that is only for external libraries, okay, not for your standard SDLC, okay, just for the migration. So in on-prem, right, you use Nexus for your migrations, right? You deploy it to Nexus once, and then the TAC will get everything from the Nexus, right? That is not the case in the cloud, okay. Nexus will not be used as a part of your migration methodology. Okay, your migration, all the migration methodology will happen in the cloud in these environments. Okay, you publish your there's actually on the back end there's Nexus too, but you won't get access to it. Okay, you won't get access. On the back end we're implementing a Nexus to store your artifacts. When you're moving, what you create is like a pipeline, promotion pipeline inside the cloud. And when you move your artifact from one environment to another, that's really what's happening. They're moving the artifacts from one environment at the back end from Nexus. Okay, so go ahead.
Whatever we are doing in the management side, you are kind of putting in the cloud and calling it as a managed service.
Right.
So then, if I have some kind of a user libraries, and if I want to migrate it, like what is the procedure? Because you are not going to allow me to get into that.
Right. Right.
So what is the process?
There is a process for that. So there is a Nexus. Actually, there is a Nexus available, and that is for external libraries. Yes, there are two different types of Nexuses. That one is internal for us, one is external for you. But that is not for like what you create an artifact task. That's not for that. That is for external libraries, like you just exactly said. Where it's obviously if you have big data, you want to package all these jars and then publish them, right? That's exactly why would you use that Nexus for. But there is a Nexus, but but it's really not for deployments. Okay, that's really for just storing the artifacts so that everyone can access it. So even Talent Cloud can access it. Okay. Okay, moving on. Physical architecture, pretty simple. So this should be clear by now, right? on-prem. This is on-prem, okay? So this is on-prem. You have the client, right? Your client is a studio. You have the web browser. You have the studio and the Git repository, the web browser and the database clients. Okay, that's it, right? And that's pretty clear. So executions is remote engines. Remote engines is on your on-prem, like I said. Okay, and the SDLC part. This is the Nexus you're talking about, right? You can actually we recommend using Nexus just for that. People can share libraries across, right? If you have 10 developers, you don't want, everyone doing their own libraries, using their own libraries, right? You want to make sure it's there in a central way somewhere, and so that all the developers can use it. So that's where the SDLC is. So Talent Cloud needs also obviously a Git repository, okay? So when you create a project, just like how in TAG you create a project, in TMC when you create a project, it will ask for a Git repository, okay? But it won't connect actually. It will only connect when you're actually opening the studio up, and then it will give you the project name, right? Just like how in TAG. That's when only then it will connect. Before that, we used to have this issue where our Talent Cloud, your TMC cannot talk to our Git. We need to open all these ports for this. No, you don't have to. You don't have to. As long as your studio machine has access to Git repository, you're good. That's it. TMC does not need to talk to Git at that time. It will talk eventually, but at least during this initial setup, you don't need it. Okay.
Git is a necessity, or any other version management is also?
No, only Git.
Only Git.
Yep. There are multiple versions in Git you can use, but no SVN. No SVN, only Git. We are not supporting SVN. I don't see that in the roadmap also. I think we are slowly getting away from SVN simply because Git provides a lot more options compared to SVN, right? SVN is more legacy. Git is more modern architecture. You can resolve conflicts, you can do merges and things like that in Git, but not in SVN. SVN is still legacy. So.
Git is cloud-based. SVN is not.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Absolutely. All right, moving on. Recommended sizing. Mainly, you got to look at your client, right? Client PCB. Recommend at least 16 gigs of memory on your studio. I've seen developers who have used 8 gigs too, and it works fine. But we recommend 16 gigs. I mean, even at some point, it will, initially it will run if you have 8 gig, but eventually we will run into some issues. So start off with 16 gigs. 16 memory is cheap, so it shouldn't be a big deal to get a 16 gig machine. So start off with that. Remote engine, this is interesting, right? This is really up to you. I mean, we recommend at least 16 gig in there. I mean, minimum 128 gig recommended, but it's really up to how many jobs you're running, right? How many jobs are running concurrently, right? How much data you're loading, how many cache components do you have, how much memory is it, it's loading into memory, how many lookups do you have, things like that, right? So you would start, the good thing is if you are in a VPC, right, if you're in a VPC, like I said earlier, if you're using AWS or Azure, you can always increase the resources. You can actually change the type of your EC2 instance without actually, even shutting it down. I think you can actually just say change the type, and you probably have to shut it down, but you don't have to completely, completely take out the machine. You can actually in AWS you can actually say change the type to M4. Automatically it'll change it. So you can start off small, and then when you need more and more resources, you can change the type later on. Okay. Shared Nexus server and Git server is pretty standard. 8 gig RAM for the both of them, right? Yeah, this is the Cloud Engine versus Remote Engine. Okay, I wanted to do a bullet point thing, but I couldn't do it. I had to do more like a table thing. So that, if you want to look at the first row, right? Cloud Engine runs within the Talent Cloud. Okay, within the Talent Cloud, and Remote Engine is downloaded from Talent Cloud. You're downloading the Remote Engine from the Talent Cloud, and you still have to pair it. You download it, and you pair it with the Talent Cloud, okay? So Talent Cloud is still managing it, but it's sitting on your on-prem VM, okay? The second part, again, is the same thing, managed by Talent, run on demand. This is managed by the end customer. Set specifications, Remote Engine, unlimited, Data sources visible through the internet, which means cloud applications. Okay. Hybrid cloud or on-prem sources. Okay. Restricted to 3 concurrent jobs only. Okay. Unlimited concurrent jobs with remote engines. Okay. With my conversations, with my whatever I have, 80% of the customers that I've seen, or even more than that, are using remote engines. They're maybe very small, like 1 user, 2 user developer projects, really small projects. That's where they don't even have on-prem. They want everything in the cloud. They have a SaaS application and they want to load AWS Redshift or something like that. And they do not want to really install anything on their end. They don't even probably have a data center. Everything is in the cloud. That's when you would use a cloud engine, right? But that's rare. I mean, typically, a lot of customers have on-prem systems and they would want to get data from the on-prem system. That's when you will need remote engine. And remote engine, you have to manage a server, but really it's, but really, if you think about it, right, if you want to use, why would you want to even use Cloud Engine, right? Basically, because your Cloud Engine is sitting on our cloud, right? And your data center is somewhere else, and data is moving across regions, right? From the cloud, this Cloud Engine, this Cloud Engine. In Remote Engine, there is no data moving. There's no data moving. The Talent Cloud will only have a really small piece of metadata. That's all it stores, really. It does not store a lot of information at all, right? It does not store the data. Cloud engines, obviously, they do. They have to, right? Because everything is running in the cloud. But remote engines, it's really not storing. So it's always good to have remote engines closer to your target systems or your source systems, however it makes sense, right? And that's when remote engines make sense, completely makes sense. Okay. Okay, moving on. Oh, demo, yeah. We'll take a look at this. So I have a simple job here, actually. Yeah, there you go. So, you basically have to right-click and say Publishers Cloud. That's it. And I have the settings already in there, right? There's a URL, there's a port. You have to put in your username and password, and I already have that in the studio, in the preferences, actually. And that's all I have to do to actually move the job to the cloud. That's it. And if you want to see where it is, did I say okay?
Studio is a different volume, or it's like the latest version has this option of publishing to different.
The latest version has it. Yeah, it has it. So if you go to preferences and there you go. It's an integration cloud, and that's where you would need to put in your URL and username and password, and that's the URL actually. Okay. Pretty simple, and so if you log into Talent Cloud, that's how it'll look like. Okay, and these are the 4 different applications that are available in the cloud right now. Okay. Do you guys use data prep, data stewardship at all, or no? Okay. They're in the cloud if you have to use it, but mainly if you have to go to let me show that. So the Management Console, Integration Cloud. If you're using just DI, these are the 2 applications that you would want to use. Okay, so Management Console is just like TAC on the cloud. Okay, it's all you can manage your projects here. You can manage your roles. Oops. Yeah, you can manage your users. Things like that. Okay. And this is where you actually create a project. If I click on a project, that's where you see that it asks for a Git URL here. Okay. And if I go to Integration Cloud, that's where you will see all your flows, your jobs, and your the promotions pipelines, all the other things that you need. Okay. These are the flows. A simple flow. Okay. And there are environments. There are multiple environments. Is it up here? Oh, I think it's in here. So if you go to administration, there's environments here. You can create multiple environments here. These are promotion pipelines. Promotion pipelines are for promotions, like from one environment to another. Remote engines. These are all my remote engines here. It's you can do add engine, remote engine. That's it. Oh, We've hit the limit of remote engines, okay. And the downloads, you will find the studio here. You'll find the studio archive here, okay. We also, in the 7.0 version, we are giving a CI builder plugin if you want interested in doing CI using our Maven plugin. We also wrote a really big blog on this using CI and how can you integrate that with containers, and how you can actually put the containers in using Dockerization on AWS ECS or Fargate, or you can do that. You can go fancy, right, with Talend, simply because if you're talking containers, right, we are basically just a code generator, right? And you take that code and you do whatever you want with it, right? So you can take that and Dockerize it, and then you can take that Docker container and actually start using it using AWS Fargate, and this is really not possible for with other tools. Like if you're talking about SSIS or Informatica, this is really not possible at all, because they have their own code base, their own repository, their own integration services. There's no engines. The engines would not work with a different kind of code base, so they're very tightly coupled, and that's the advantage we have. You can take the code and do whatever you want with it. Right?
So the same, does this come as a part of a managed services, or we have to deploy that?
You have to, yeah.
So how, what is it effort takes to deploy the CI/CD from our on-premise to this? Any idea?
Yeah, it depends on the requirements. I think if you what I've seen typically in CI/CD implementations is really you have a vision, right? You do, first thing is you need a vision to how you want everything to be handled according to your business case, right? After that, the tools comes into play, tools and people, right? That's when, okay, what are the different tools which need to be involved, right? So it's a mix of many different things, right? It's a big concept. If you can make it work, it's amazing, right? If you can make it work, right? But and a lot of customers really do not have the requirements, right? They don't go live that often. This is CI/CD is more for if you have thousands of jobs and you have to move the code to production every day, multiple times, and that's when, and every time you have to test the build, make sure it runs the test cases, it's the build is successful, and so it's really not for everyone. But if you do have the requirement, if we have the tools for you to do that. Timing wise, that's really tough to say, depending on your knowledge, how things like Jenkins or Bamboo work, things like how Maven works, right? You really need to understand all these concepts pretty well to actually combine all these together and form a CI/CD kind of process. I would say it's not easy. It could get complicated, and timing-wise, it depends. It could take just an initial setup for you to install Jenkins, install Nexus, install all these things. That would take a week, and just to do a POC, that'll take maybe 2 or 3 weeks. I would say if one person, if he's working on that for the whole period of time, it'll probably take a month or so.
We have implemented CI/CD.
Awesome.
So now, if we want to point to this cloud, is it just changing this command lines and the several endpoints?
Yeah, yeah.
The rest, all the process remains the same.
Right. Yeah, I would certainly go to our. Actually, when you're talking about containers, again, I'm mixing two different things here. When you're talking about CI/CD, yes. So I would try to look at the blog. It has good information. It's brand new. What it has, its Studio has some settings, Maven settings, and even you can put directly some settings over there, and it'll automatically put all the configurations for you and bundle it out for you. Okay, and you have to install the CI builder for that and all that. So it should work. If you already have that set up, it should work pretty straightforward. Okay. All right. So yeah, I mean, I don't have. I want to show you this so that you get a feel on how it looks like and of the interfaces and things like that. Okay, so we'll talk about workspaces. Workspaces are important. We'll talk about static IPs also in the next coming few slides. Okay. All right, let's move on. SDLC port, just like on-prem, your dev and your QA and production non-dev environments will not need a Git repository. Okay, only your dev environment will need a Git repository. Okay, and the Studio 2 will only be in dev. It won't be in dev and QA and production. Okay, you would develop your jobs in your development environment. You will push to a development workspace. We call it a workspace in the cloud. You would push it, you would publish it over there. And then using the promotion pipelines, right? Using those promotion pipelines, you would actually move the artifacts across one environment to another. Okay? So your studio, you can actually publish directly to a production workspace from the studio, but it's security-wise is really, really bad, right? So you would publish it to the dev workspace and then move it across using our managed service, using in the cloud, okay? So the deployment part, again, that is all automatic, right? In TAC, you would have to install the Nexus, you would have to create an artifact task, you would have to move from one environment to another. It's a lot of steps involved. This is more streamlined. It's all in the cloud. All the migrate deployment part is on-prem, it's pretty straightforward in the cloud as opposed to on-prem, I think. So the workspaces enable, this is more for collaboration. So what we really recommend is there's two types of workspaces, personal and shared. What we really recommend is to have if you have 10 developers, right? You would have 10 personal workspaces and one shared workspace in one environment, okay? And that shared workspace will be the same, will have the same, it could be a project name too. It could be a project name which is shared, and that will be across the same workspace, should be added in QA and production too. And then when you do the promotion, it's actually moving the objects in the workspace across multiple environments, okay? So that the workspaces are important. I mean, try to leverage, personal and also the shared workspaces. Promotion pipelines, already mentioned this. It's a means to promoting your cloud artifacts. You can do full workspace promotions, or you can do individual jobs too. Okay. And it will give you a nice report after the promotion, and it will give you what do you call it, analysis report and also the migration report. It will give you two different reports actually. It will tell you this object has already been is already there, and I'm going to reuse it, or this object does not exist in your target environment, and this will be completely new in your target environment. You kind of get your nice report for you to understand, what jobs have, what components, what different pieces of your artifact has actually moved across environments. Okay. Oops. Right. So security, the only port. So if you are using cloud engines, right? If you're using cloud engines, Talent Studio needs to connect to cloud, right? At that time, the only port that needs to be opened from your firewall to the cloud is 443. That's it. Job server has those 8,000 ports and all that, right? You don't need to open any of those. The only communication which you need, a new port that you need to open, right, is 443, and you're reaching out to the cloud. Cloud never reaches out back. Okay, it's always you're reaching out to the cloud. You're publishing to the cloud. Cloud never actually goes back. Okay. So, I mean, as you see, I don't know if you can get more secure than that, really, right? It's all HTTPS, really. And you're sitting on AWS, so AWS has, 20 different types of security protocols they follow. So automatically, we follow all those protocols. Automatically, simply because we're using AWS infrastructure for moving for performing our regular operations and our cloud operations and things like that. Okay. And only metadata is transferred. There's no the real data being transferred. Okay, with cloud engines it's different, right? Cloud engines need the data. It will move With the remote engines, yeah, only metadata. There's no data being transferred. Okay, it's all through the remote engines. Yeah, this is so cloud engines. If you're using cloud engines for your app-to-app sync, okay, how will your app know? How will your app have access to Talent Cloud? Right, that's when static IPs comes into play. We have inside that administration, in the TMs, in the Talent Integration Cloud, inside the administration, we have something called static IPs. Okay, you have to generate them. Initially, by default, you won't get them. When you generate them, you will get a list of IPs, and you have to go to, like, let's say Salesforce.com or your NetSuite cloud app and say, okay, can you please open up, whitelist these IPs on your end. That's how the communication will happen, okay? Because your cloud app will need access to Talent Cloud, right? Because you're using cloud engines, you're actually even moving data across one application to other application too, right? So that's why we will need that static IPs to be enabled, to be whitelisted on your cloud applications, okay? All right, best practices. Any questions so far? It makes sense? Okay. Best practice number 1, we talked about this a little bit. Remote engine, if you're an AWS VPC, if you're using Azure VNet, use remote engines. I mean, it's a no-brainer, really. I think because cloud engines doesn't make sense here because you can leverage the sizes and the flexibility of EC2 machines as opposed to cloud engines. Like I said, cloud engines, they're only its resources are limited, right? There are some limitations with our cloud engines, right? All that will go away if you're using remote engines. So if you are using a AWS or Azure environment, try to use install remote engine and use that. Okay. Git best practices. Wherever you go, you got to follow this, right? It doesn't matter if on-prem. It doesn't matter if you're cloud. You have to follow the Git best practices. You have to branch them. You have to tag them. You have to compare them. You have to merge them. You can all that. Okay, nothing changes on that end, right? Nothing changes and that's very, very important, right? SDLC and your Git methodology is critical to your success of your projects. Okay, and nothing changes from the cloud perspective. Okay.
Nitin?
Yes.
On that previous
Sure.
slide, that link is really obviously hard to remember. So when you type help.talent.com, what would be the keyword to search for?
Oh yeah, Git best practices.
Just get
That's it.
best practices.
Yep.
on that.
Yeah, you should be able to find it. There's 2 links. One will be for versions greater than 6.2, and one link will be greater than less than 6.2, and I don't think 6.2 not even supported right now. So basically that you'll get one link which says, okay, these are the Git best practices for 6.2 and greater versions. Okay.
Is it easy to compare the two artifacts in this repository because we are using OpenStudio and that's maybe a pain point like comparing the different versions?
You can. So you're saying that comparing, let's say one version, and then you want to compare that with a different version. I believe so. I want to say yes to it. Dale, do you know?
I'm sure.
Yeah, I want to say yes. There is a merging functionality, right? And merging is complicated. It's not easy to do. That's why That's why I want to say yes, basically because if you're able to do merging, we should be able to do compare, because there's no merging without compare, really.
I'm sorry, yeah, absolutely. So it's a diff merge functionality. So we'll present both 2 windows in the studio of the differences, and you'll be able to walk through side by side, looking at the differences and decide survivorship at a component level. So you can effectively merge 2 jobs of the same job, 2 versions of the same.
Yeah, if you're an open studio, try to consider, see if these you will run into some of these issues, really, right?
TOS will not do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I think correct.
Yeah, TOS does not support
you have to do the minor and the version, minor, major version. It's a pain. It's going to create like, if you create like 20 versions, it's going to create all those 20 jobs underneath, and your repository going to get really slow. The studio will not open properly. It is a pain, really. Yeah.
It's a single user version.
Yep. Yep. There's no collaboration, team-based development. There's nothing, right? All right. Yeah. So this is a good one. So do you guys know the distant run functionality in Talend? Distant run. So distant run in for on-prem is you can remote run. Yeah, sorry, remote run. Yeah, distant. Yeah. So similar to that, remote run, where you have the job server, right? You can do that on the remote engine. So you can say I want to actually run a job on the remote engine directly from my studio. The cloud is still managing that remote engine, but you want to run a job on the cloud engine directly instead of going to the cloud and running the flow there and you look at the error and then you go back to the cloud and try to know what is going on in the job. Instead of that, you can not just run, you can even debug the job on that remote engine directly from your studio. This functionality wasn't there when we released. This came up maybe 3 or 4 months ago. So it's a pretty. I think it'll be very useful for developers. Orchestration and logging. So this is important. So Studio is really powerful, right? And we like that. Our developers love the Studio, and we recommend using the Studio for orchestration. Okay. In TAC, there is something called execution plans, and we do have something like that. We have execution plans in Cloud too, but they have limited functionality. We are not there yet where we can actually nest out and do a lot of branches in your execution plans. It's limited. It's really limited right now. I think the product manager will come up with more options. But if you want to orchestrate, if you have a lot of if then else, like run this job, after this job, things like that. Try to do in the Studio. Okay, go ahead, Dale.
Hoping to see that functionality in the fall release.
Yeah, we are.
Should be soon.
They're all execution plans. It's limited functionality though. So if you're developing, use Studio for that, okay? And not just for that, use subjobs and joblets. Cloud logs so logging perspective, like I earlier mentioned, we don't have a log server, okay? So you would have to manage, you can use the components like the stat cacher, where it uses the error table. You can still use those tables, okay? You can still, but there is no ELK based on log4j. There is no that, okay? You can customize it and build it, right? You can, like I said, the logs can be sent to like S3 bucket, and you can actually install like a ELK kind of mechanism sitting on the top of S3 buckets, but that's really you have to do, okay? We don't have a ELK right? We do have monitoring again, but we don't have like a proper ELK setup yet in the cloud, okay? So that's why we say, use, you do the logging also mainly through the Studio, okay? And again, this doesn't change, right? There should be a common way you can do error handling and logging within the Talend jobs. That does not change, right? It's either part of a sub-job or a joblet. Try to have a common way that you can use, that you can do error handling and logging, okay? And even restartability, right? Design your jobs for restartability. You can, in the cloud, when you publish the job to the cloud, you cannot right-click on the job and say, restart where it stopped. Like, you can, in TAC, you can do checkpointing and some good things like that. We're still not there yet. We cannot do restarts from a specific checkpoint in the cloud yet. Okay, so use Studio for that. Okay, you have to put some design, right? You have to do the job design in a way that when the job stops, you know where it stopped, and you can actually run the job so that the job takes, starts the process at that time instead of starting from scratch, right? Usually we have notifications, right? In the this is not very clear, but you can have notifications set up like custom workspaces. if you have any execution plans that failed, or remote engines fail, or remote engine new created or paired, there are notifications on the cloud that you can enable. Okay. We have a public API right now. Okay. Only the executions are exposed in the public API right now. So there was I will give you an example how you can use this. There was a use case where a customer wanted, okay, I want a file is coming into my S3 bucket, right? I don't want to sit there and wait for it and then kick off a job. Okay, should automatically kick off a Talent Cloud job when I get a file in S3 bucket. Okay. What you can do is you can create a AWS Lambda function. AWS Lambda function can call the API, and then you can automate that completely, right? With APIs right now, I mean, overall, almost all our new products all will be API enabled. The calls itself, we will add more and more. Like right now, you cannot really do a promotion pipeline using an API, right? You cannot really do that right now. We will add that in the future. But right now, it's only executions, okay? But most of the products will have the APIs enabled for everything. You can put in your logic wherever you want and things like that, okay? And best practice number 7. So this is talking about upgrade, okay? So the good thing about Studio is that if let's say, okay, you're running 7.0 Studio, okay? You just downloaded the cloud. You just got a cloud license. You downloaded the Studio, okay? And then 6 months later, the cloud got upgraded to 7.1, right? And you're in a 7.0 Studio. It should work just fine, okay? But again, we don't recommend you to wait for too long, though. I mean, you can wait until maybe 7.2, 7.3 maybe, but that's it. Okay, after that, it's recommended to upgrade the Studio, simply because at some point we will take out the support, right? But for example, right now, 6.2 Studio is not supported. It starts from 6.3, 6.3, 6.4, 6.5, and 7.0. These are the studios we support. Okay, so when basically you have to see our timelines, make sure you upgrade your Studio. And upgrading Studio is not going to be that complicated, right? All the jobs are in the Git repository anyway, right? All you have to do is download the new one and then connect to that Git repository, and there you go, boom, all your jobs are upgraded. The recommendation though is, if you're doing upgrade, try to do the copy of the Git repository, right? Take a copy of the Git repository and connect to that, right? If you connect a Git repository to a newer Studio, the jobs will be automatically upgraded and you cannot go back. Okay, so you have to create a copy of the Git repository and then use that Git repository for the new version. Okay, don't use the same Git repository, because you cannot go back if you want to go back, right? And 6.2 is not supported. Upgrading Studio is recommended. Okay. This is about shared workspaces. We talked about this. Have shared workspaces, have personal workspaces, and assign remote engines for workspaces. Okay. And the workspace name should be exactly the same across environments. If not, it won't work. Okay. This is a good one. So context variables. There was a call I did 3 or 4 months ago, and the customer was like, okay, I have context variables and I'm publishing it to cloud. I don't see them. I don't think you guys are supporting context variables. I'm like, no, we are supporting context variables, but it got to be in a specific format. Okay, it's got to be like in the screenshot there. Only then Talent Cloud will recognize it. If you just do MySQL underscore host name, it won't recognize it. It has to be connection underscore this one. And similar to parameters, you have to have parameter underscore. If not, it won't recognize it. Okay. This is a pretty common thing and honestly, it's not properly documented in our in our website too, but we are fixing that. So there are a lot of tips here. So let me see how we are doing on time. So we have in there 15, 20 minutes or so, I suppose, or more. So I'll go through them really quickly. So the remote engine itself, you can change the configuration. So the remote engine by default, it has a set configuration, like a 2-core or 5 gig or something like that, and you can change that. You have to change that. Okay, you have to run that command line and actually run some commands to give more resources to your remote engines. Okay, that's what the first one is talking about. The timeout, you have to change the timeout in the studio. Context variables will need to be created. This is wrong actually. So with the new release, you don't have to do that. This is an older point. Context variables will be migrated. Okay, when you do the promotions, right, one environment or another, context variables will go. And you can go in and actually, in the cloud, you can actually set them over there. This was a new option too. Before that, you could never actually set a context variable in the cloud. Right now, you are able to do that. So you define context variables once in dev, and then in production, in QA and production, you go and actually change the context variables. And we actually honestly don't even recommend putting your passwords and usernames and host names in the Talent Studio itself, right? You can read from a file, you can read from database, that's what really we recommend. But initially, at least if you want to do that, yes, so use context variable, put in the context underscore, parameter underscore thing in over there, and then move across, try to move the context variables across environments, okay? Webhooks is like an API, meta-servlet API, right? Meta-servlet API is for TAC, where you can run the job from an external system, right? Similar to that, there's a webhook. We provide something called webhook on the cloud, where you can run the job externally outside the cloud. Okay, it's just a URL. It gives you a URL actually. For every job, you can generate a webhook and then execute it externally. Okay. Static IPs need to be whitelisted. We talked about that. Resources. Okay. Resources are important for your jobs. If you need a file, right? If you're it's running in the cloud, but it needs an access to a file, right? But the cloud application does not have access to your C drive or your remote your on-prem machines, right? So you would take that and stick them in resources, what we call resources in the cloud, and that's how the job will have access to that file, right? For a good example is an SSL certificate. Right? You dump that in the cloud, and then it will use that certificate whenever it has to run the job. Advanced promote is for promoting individual flows to other environments. Okay. The command line. Okay, this is a good option. So every time you have to publish a job to the cloud, right? You have to go and say right click and say publish, right click and say publish, right click and say publish. If you have like 500 jobs, what do you do? Right? If you have like 100 jobs, what do you do? Right? You can automate that using command line. Okay, you can run one script, right? Based on our command line server, okay, and then you can use that. The publish to cloud command is part of our command line, okay, and then you can automate that, right? That way you're not doing everything manually, right? You can do it. You can build one script, and for the next job, you just take that and then put the new job name in there, and then it'll take care of it. So it also. Depending on the speed too, sometimes the publishing itself will take some time, okay? At that time too, this will come into play, okay? Where you could use a command line. Command line could be faster than your studio, okay? So that use command line for that too. Just like how we have, you guys know virtual job servers, right? Just like that, we have remote engine clustering, okay? Failover kind of scenarios, you can do remote engine clustering, leverage that. On-prem Nexus, we talked about this too, right? For sharing libraries, use that. That's a very good tip, honestly.